Let's travel back to 2011. The Nintendo 3DS is just released, the iPhone 4S is the latest Apple product, and 4G networks have just been dispersed across the United States. But best of all, one of the greatest games of all time was about to release. That is right, ladies and gentlemen, today we are playing Battlefield 3 on my brand new PC. It's running a Ryzen 9 9950X3D and an RTX 5080. Now these are very modern components to what was out at the time of this game's release, and that will reflect later on in the video. To fairly critique the game, we're splitting it into 3 different categories, and then we'll get an average of all 3 at the end. The first is going to be performance, the second gameplay, and the third nostalgia. So, starting out with performance, obviously the main thing on everybody's mind is how is the FPS? How does it hold up to this day? Surely you're getting 900 FPS, right? No. If you take a look to the top right now, as you can see, the FPS, it's good, it's very playable, but it's not that great. I don't think there was a single point where we did drop below 100 FPS, but there was definitely points where it was close. I think in this clip, yeah, there you go, you can see 108 there for a second. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. And obviously this comes down to the fact that the game is not optimized for modern technology. This was very prominent when I opened my task manager and I had a look at the performance. The game was only utilizing, I think it was 18% of the CPU and about 30% of the GPU. So, you know, it's just not really utilizing your computer components the way it should be, and of course that is going to directly affect the amount of FPS that you can actually get. Now, as I say, the FPS is fine, it runs perfectly fine, it's fairly smooth, and it's enjoyable enough to play the game at a decent frame rate, right? You're above 60, you're above 90 a lot of the time. I'm sure other PCs that aren't as overkill as this one could still maintain a high FPS too, so, you know, at the end of the day, the FPS isn't too much of an issue. There isn't a whole lot else to cover in terms of performance. Like, the game runs fine, so it's not any issue in terms of that. The servers are all community servers, so they all have decent connectivity. Your ping isn't really going to be an issue if you're playing on a local server. However, the desync is a prominent issue. Now, it feels like when you shoot people sometimes, there is a bit of desync, right? How isn't he dead? I just mag dumped half a mag into the back of a guy, and he's not dead. I mean, that clip might just be cope, but it did look like I shot that guy a lot. I'll play it again in slow motion just so you can get a better look at what was going on. But it did feel like I shot that guy a lot, and it just didn't do anything. He was half HP, which was kind of crazy to see. But in terms of performance, overall, it's not bad. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It's nothing outstanding, it's nothing great, but it's also not too poor that you'd be turned away from the game. So I give it a 6 out of 10. Now, going on into gameplay, there's a few little subcategories I want to go on into here. One of those being graphics. So we're going to start with that one because this game has some of the most impressive graphics, even to this day. Considering this game came out in 2011, there's actually quite a lot of games in the modern day that this can actually hold up to, you know? It's very, very impressive. The reason I'd mark it down is the blue tinge. Games like Battlefield 4 and so on didn't really have that. And I think that is like a negative for this game. But yeah, overall the graphics on this game are still incredible to this day. They still hold up. It's honestly very, very impressive. The next thing I wanted to discuss was the gunplay. The gunplay feels fairly solid on this game. But, like I said earlier, the desync issues do cause a little bit of bullet delay or just bullets not registering at all. Now this could also be a recoil issue. There might be bloom, something like that. But I'm not 100% sure on that, so I'm not going to try and spit facts. But it doesn't feel 100% fluid. It feels good, but not fluid. You know, when you compare this to Battlefield 4's gunplay, that is very precise. You know, it still isn't perfect, but, you know, you're killing people that you're aiming at a lot quicker than you are in Battlefield 3. To be fair, they could just have extra HP on this game, and that might be what the issue is. But it doesn't feel like it. Feels like there's something wrong with the bullets just not registering. And again, this is a 14-year-old game, so you can't really knock it too much because, you know, things were a lot different back then. If you want to play this game on a weekend, just chill with your friends, this is definitely something that you need to consider. Now, as I mentioned before, all of the servers are community servers. Sometimes this would be good, but this actually is a limiting factor in this case, specifically because you're kind of limited to the Conquest mode, and the choice is either Conquest, like regular, or Hardcore. And then on top of that, you're limited to certain map pools. Now, in our circumstance, we could only find Operation Metro. Which, don't get me wrong, I love myself some Metro. It's a great map, but you kind of want to expand out of that, especially when you're going back to a game for nostalgia. But, you know, if you love Metro and you can play that all day, you'll enjoy the community service. But for me personally, I can't hack it. I prefer a bit of variety, especially in these older Battlefield games where they had like so many good maps, you know? But it is what it is. It's just how the times go. Now, what I will say is we are very pro community servers. When the games have a good player base, they work very well. There's a lot of variety to which servers you can play. But when there's only a few hundred people playing, you're limited to about 4 different servers, which is not ideal, I'll be honest. It's not the most ideal. Especially if the rules on the server are very restrictive. It's not very fun. And it is what it is. You've got no choice. You've got to play it if you want to play the game. Overall, community servers are better for the game, and as you can see with this, it helps the community live on. But yeah, in my opinion, the gameplay is definitely pretty solid. The only issue I've got, really, is that the community servers can be restrictive, and you don't have much of a choice because the community of Battlefield 3 is very small now. But all in all, it's a very fun experience. You're gonna have fun if you want to play it for like a weekend. I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's not insanely good, because there is a few glaring issues, obviously. Despite that, I still had a pretty good time. Now, moving on to nostalgia. This game still holds a very special place in my heart. I have memories from when I was younger on Damavand Peak, jumping off the cliff, playing on Noshaw Canal's TDM, dropping out the sky, dropping C4. But yeah, I've got a lot of good memories on this game. And to be fair, it still holds up when you play it. You kind of get those flashbacks. Like you always, you know, you go back to the stories of when you were younger. When you'd be on the airfield, trolling your team, crashing into the jets, things like that, you know. Or like the C4 buggies. Oh man, you got so many. It just brings it all back to you. You know, when you combine the gameplay and the performance, like now, it's a 50-50. The nostalgia is actually better than the gameplay, right? This is a very common theme when you go back to older games, and it's how it is. There's very few games out there that can really grip your attention still, that, you know, from 10, 12 years ago. And obviously Battlefield 3, for me personally, you know, it's no exception. It's fun, but I couldn't last like a whole day of playing this. I couldn't play it for more than a few hours at most. It's a great game, but it's just not what it used to be because it doesn't have the player count. But for the nostalgia, I'd have to give it a 9 out of 10. It honestly was amazing to play again and kind of relive some of those memories. You didn't get it through the gameplay necessarily, but like just being there, the environment, the, you know, the menus, the gunshots and all that stuff, it was very like unique and very cool. It's definitely something only Battlefield 3 can capture. So yeah, I think I've got to give it a 9 out of 10 for nostalgia. So all in all, that gives Battlefield 3 a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's a very fair rating. You know, back in the day, I would have gave this an easy 9. But the issue is it hasn't held up to what it used to be. And that's no fault of its own. It's just, it's a 14-year-old game at the end of the day. Can't expect the devs to pump money into it still 14 years later. There's definitely still a little community there that play on PC, and, you know, you could mix in with and get involved in, but you have to expect limitations. For a game to revisit every once in a while, it's definitely a lot of fun. I would recommend it, you know, but personally I couldn't really play it for an extended period of time. It was a fun experience. I'm glad I did it, and, you know, it was quite interesting to see how it holds up to this day. If there's any older games you'd like to see us go back to and test on these new PCs, feel free to drop them in the comments. We'd love to, you know, expand this kind of into a series possibly. I do plan on trying Battlefield 4 out. I have tried it before on this PC, and it was quite interesting, the results. Like I say, if there's any other ideas, drop them in the comments. I do appreciate you all watching. It's been a lot of fun making this video and a lot of fun revisiting the game. But without further ado, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.